Okay, so in this course, we're going to focus on making educational games, and we're going to start off by creating really a basic game. It's not necessarily, it's more about getting you super comfortable with UI Canvas and scripting it, but it's going to be more of a quiz game. So go ahead and hit new project here. And then at the top here, go ahead and select the editor Unity 6. And you'll see here that there's a Unity 2D and there's a Unity 3D. For now, I'm going to stick with Unity 3D because I'm probably going to use, again, this project to put all of my Unity games, my educational games in it. I want to use Unity version control. And then you can put some repository details in here. So for this one, I could write, educational games. And what I consider educational is like, say you want to make a history game. It looks like we had an error there. Is it too long? No, it's okay. If you want to make like a history game, if you're a history buff and it's like, it's a simulator of like, Oregon Trail or something. I don't necessarily need to connect to Unity Cloud because I'm not going to be using any of their cloud services, but you can, I think, I guess it makes you leave that on when you're using version control. But what I'm going to do is Unity 3, and you want to make sure that it says here universal render pipeline because that's what we want to use. You don't want to do the HDRP, which is high dynamic range. I think that's good. And then I don't think we need anything from these sample files. Like you can see here, it gives you a bunch of stuff. We're just going to go straight with our game here. So Unity 3D Core here. We might have to install the 2D packages on our own later. So I'm going to go ahead and click this create project button, and I'm going to pause the video. Right, now that we have our project set up, let's go ahead and essentially create go to our project tab here, and let's just create a little bit of some folders, right? So inside here in the assets folder, I'm going to create a folder called scripts. I'm going to create another folder in here called art. And then what I'd like to do is do a little bit of setup is here as well. Now what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put a little underscore in front of the art folder as well as the script folder. Now the reason I do this is because it lets them float to the top. And these are going to be my most used folders. Same thing with scenes here. And you'll notice like it says tutorial info, settings, all that stuff. What happens is you just get some other stuff inside of here. And what I'll do sometimes too is like all of this other stuff, I'll just create another folder and I'll just call this Unity stuff. And then I'll put like settings, tutorial info, all this, the readme inside of here. Inside of Unity stuff. And then that kind of cleans up my interface a little bit. So I'm only looking at the things I need. Kind of like what they do with their packages. They put all the packages you download into this folder here. All right, now we're in a 3D environment and we want to do a 2D game. So I'm going to go ahead and just up top here, click on 2D here, and that'll lock my screen in. Next thing I'm going to do is select my main camera here. And on my main camera, it says projection, perspective. We'll fiddle with that orthographic view a little bit later. But what I'm interested in too is in my environment here, I'm not going to do skybox. I'm going to do solid color. And that'll give me a flat solid color. And then we could just go with maybe like a light gray here. And then we want to use pipeline settings and all this stuff, but we're going to set it more for 2D. So something like this. And if I hit F to focus, you can see this is pretty much the center of our camera. And for now, let's just stick with 16:9 aspect ratio. You could always change it later to any one of these if you want. This is my screen size now. Right, so for our quiz game, we're going to do it all through the UI canvas. And if you're not familiar with the term UI, it stands for user interface. So we're going to right click in here, and then we're just going to go down to UI, and we're just going to click on canvas. Now, part of the user interface is all of these elements here, right? And we're going to be mostly using TextMesh Pro objects. So there's going to be things that we're going to import in and out from our 2D system. But let's go ahead and click on canvas here. And you'll notice that off the bat, the canvas, here's my canvas, and then it added this event system here. You could go ahead and dock the event system as a child of the canvas for now. Again, just to kind of clean up space in our hierarchy here. Now, our canvas, you can see, has all these settings, which we'll go through in a second. But if I go ahead and select my canvas and I hit F to focus, you can see when I zoom out, it actually takes on the aspect ratio of 16:9. And this is where we're going to mostly be working, is inside of our system here. Now we could, in all theory, let's see, just click on this first one, which is, well, not wireframe drop, maybe shaded wireframe. Yeah, I guess we've got to leave this on. But this is how our camera's going to view, but this is how our game is going to look to our player because we've took out the skybox from our environment here. Now, any of the user interface elements need to be added to the canvas. So let's go ahead and right click here for now and go to UI and click on image. Now you can see that an image appears in the scene. Now the interesting thing is if I click on main camera here and I hit F to focus, notice it zooms in here and we lost inside of our scene where our image is. And the reason is if Unity set it up where your canvas is sort of off to the side so that you can work out here and then you could work inside of your game scene down here so that they're not overlapping or messing with each other. But right now my actual main camera is focused, like this canvas here is overlaid on top of the visual area of my main camera. So sometimes people get confused by it. They're like, wait, how come my canvas is all the way out here? It doesn't seem right. Shouldn't it be inside of my scene view? And they do it just like I said for visibility, like so you can actually work in two different areas. Something else I should have noticed is for my layout here, if you want the same layout, you go to layout up here, and I usually do 2x3, and then I'll take my project tab here. If you double click it, you could zoom in on the tab. That's kind of what happened, but you can left click and drag it. Maybe third time's the charm. There we go. And I usually dock it down here, and you have to do that by clicking on the word project. And if you're working on a laptop, your screen size can get kind of cluttered. So I usually click on these three dots and I do one column layout here. And then we'll expand this out. And then what you could do is if you like this layout, you could go up to the top here under 2x3 and you could save your layout. You could say I have a bunch of layouts saved here. I have 3D game, 4-split, animation. For example, if I click animation, you could see it as my animator. And these are just different setups that I tend to do. XO is kind of my default one. Here, 2x3, like one column layout. And what I do, again, just kind of showing you guys different. But here's basic Alex layout. You could see this is the one I kind of just showed you. So let's go ahead and make this a one column layout here. Bring this up a little bit and expand this again so that we could see our elements. Let's go make sure that we're back on 16:9. You could see that our canvas shifted here. Now notice when we select our canvas, I'm going to expand this out so that you guys can see it. I can't edit any of these right now, right? I can't click on here. And the reason for that is the shape of this canvas is locked to whatever the settings you set up in here or other project parts of the project settings of our game. So if you set it to 16:9, these are going to update. What you get a lot of control over, I mean, aside, you could, again, change the size here, is the individual elements here. So if I click on image here, you could see that it's positioned at 0, 0, 0 in the world. And you have to be very careful of this position Z because sometimes people will be like, why aren't my characters touching or my UI clicking correctly? You want them all on the same plane. So if I uncheck 2D here, you could see it's on the 0 on the Z axis. If I move that out, I can also move it this way. Oops. And you can see it's updating on that way. I don't know. It looks like maybe my mouse's battery's dying again. Anyway, so let's go ahead and click on 2D again. If you want to edit the shape of it, you could hit the T as in Tom key or click on this. And then you could scale these elements out like this on the side, these little blue ones. And you could see it's adjusting my width here. So I can actually click on this, hold the left mouse button down and adjust the width as well. There's also like these anchors. For example, if I want to dock this image to the left corner, I can click in here. And this sets the anchor, which is this little guy here. So if I click here, notice it moved this anchor up to the corner, or this is in the center of my scene. If I hold Control and Shift, you can see it can move my pivot point to the corner. That was that little blue dot. I'm going to undo that. Or if I hold Control and Alt, I can click that. It'll snap it to the corner of the scene. I'm going to hit Control Z on that. So just kind of showing you, and I'll be doing this again anyway as we snap and move things around, because we're going to want different sections, like a question section and then a bunch of different buttons they can click on for the answers. Actually, to give you a little bit of foreshadowing to what we're going to do, I like to do things like this too, where, I'll have my image selected, I'll click in here, and again, holding Control and Shift, or Control and Alt rather, I'll move it up top, and then I could just click this button here and just stretch it out across, right, the view. So if you hold Control Alt again, you could stretch out the image there. and then you could hit T, and there's your top banner. And you could do things like right click on the image, go to UI, and then go to Text Mesh Pro Text, and you'll usually get a box that pops up like this one, Import TMP Essentials, and it only happens the first time. And they're just asking you to import additional resources so that this could work. So I normally click on that, let that run through. And what matters though is the positioning of the text in relation to the image. So notice if I make my text black here, you can see it because let me just drop it on the canvas here. It's in front of the image, which is below its positioning in the hierarchy. So I'm going to actually move my event system always to the bottom. But if I move my text above the image, I'm saying I want the image in front of it. So normally you think, oh, it's on top. The text should be on top in the scene. That's not how it works. It's actually more like this. So let me hit F to focus. So this is where you could put like, in here, my quiz game. And then we could adjust by, we have this little white dot here. Again, if you press T, you can drag that out. Generally, I'll just grab the corner of this blue dot, something like this. You could see my quiz game. And then we could adjust the text to the center here, up or down, depending on where you want it to be. I like it to be in the center. So stuff like this. So really to bring that home is say I select this image here and I hit Control D to duplicate it. And I know that this is the very back part and I want this to be my background image. So I could hit BK here, underscore Burger King image or background image. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to click in here. I'm going to hold Control and Alt. I'm going to slap that one to the center. And then I'm still holding Control Alt. I can maximize that across. Now you can't really see the difference. So let's say we make this more of an orange. Like that, you can see that I stretched this background image across the entire canvas. So this is a nice way of mocking up a quick UI is by just kind of snapping and moving these things once you get comfortable with this stretch system here. So one thing I want to show you is if I click on this and I do full HD 1920 by 1080, you can see as I zoom out, my quiz game and these elements kind of went a little bonkers. But if I go back to 16 by 9, it looks normal. And you might be like, well, that's not cool because what if someone's playing my quiz game on their mobile phone or their laptop and there's different screen sizes? That's where you go into your canvas here and there's this graphics scaler. We don't necessarily want constant pixel size. We want scale with screen size. And now when I go in here and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go default 1920 by 1080, you could see the game didn't adjust and these elements stuck in the same position. And I could just adjust the game here depending on the UI that I'm trying to test for. So the last thing I want to do in here is I'd like to, if you're an artist and you have some pretty good graphic design skills, you can edit these buttons yourself. But I'd like to go to the Unity Asset Store. So go to Window here and then click on Asset Store. I'm going to click on it and pause the video as the little boxes and UI pop up. All right, so here's the Unity Asset Store. You want to make sure you click on this corner and then you sign in with your Unity ID. All right, I went ahead and paused the video and signed in. You can see I'm signed in here. I just signed in with my Gmail account. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go into search here and I'm going to type buttons. And you can see UI buttons free, UI buttons. If you click on UI buttons, it's probably going to give you the same result as buttons, I'm guessing. And what I'm going to go here is the price and I'm going to click on free. So you can see we've got a bunch of different types of buttons here that we can use. Remember, this is kind of a quiz game. And so what I want you to do is sort of look for something that looks like this, where it's just a 2D casual UI HUD. And I'm going to use this one for my game, and I'll probably link it in the description for you guys to use in your projects. But you can see they've got these green buttons. They've got all this other stuff. It's a little bit overkill for what we're doing, but for future games or other projects that you want to use, you can probably borrow all of this and just draw all over it, draw on top of it. But you could see without the text, it looks pretty nice. We have a coin system. We could add some text. So as they add it, you could see the coins will pop up. They can get certain awards or certificates. So it looks pretty good. Here's another mock-up they did where they added a bunch of cool stuff. So what you want to do is go ahead and click on Add to My Assets here. And you'll get this Terms of Service. Go ahead and accept that. And then go ahead and say, it says go to my assets or open in Unity. I want to go ahead and click on open in Unity. Now you can see it says my assets, and I've got a bunch of assets they give us for free by default, as well as ones I've downloaded in the past. So you could see it added that to my assets inside of my package manager. So I can use it in different projects moving forward, like regardless of the game, if you ever go to your My Assets using your package manager. Now, if this didn't pop up for you, you can go to Window and then go down to Package Manager, and that'll open this up. If it didn't pop up, you want to go back to that Unity Edge, or sorry, Microsoft Edge or Chrome or wherever you're using to access your asset store, and you want to re-click that button to bring it in here. I want to go ahead and hit Import 1.0 to Project, and you can see I have all this stuff. I don't need the README. I do want the sprites, and I want this, and then the original artwork would be great. I can open that in Photoshop, and I can edit it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Import like that. And it should, let's see, give it a second. It says in project here, and I see a jog wheel, so I think it's still importing. And it says in project, overview, imported assets. It shows me these two images here, and then images. Now, the thing behind this is, let's see where it put it, like 2D casual UI. So it put them inside of here. I'm actually going to just rename this UI, and I'm going to place this inside of the art folder. Now, the reason for that is because it's art and it's user interface, and then here's original sample artwork. So this is our GUI. So if I drag this up a little bit, we could see that. And then here's our sprite sheet. So if I click on this, it looks like they already broke it up for us. So to different little elements. So what a lot of times they'll do inside of 2D games, and if you've taken my 2D classes in the past, you know this. If not, it's completely cool if this is your first time. You'll create all of your art on one sheet, and then you'll bring it into Unity inside of here, and you'll mark it as a sprite 2D and UI. And then it's a sprite mode. We usually do single or multiple, and then we break it up. Now, you'll notice here it says the sprite editor window is not available because the 2D sprite package is not installed. We're probably going to install that later. I'm going to show you a different way to install it through the package manager, but for now, I don't want to overload this video. So I think that's good for now. What we'll do in the next video is we'll take a look at just keep building out our quiz game.